It is 1:30 Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. Political leaders in Iraq say they plan to hold a parliament meeting Thursday. The gathering comes as members of the international community urge leaders to form a unity government. A legislative meeting planned for Monday has been postponed because of disagreement about who will lead the next government. Sunni Arab and Kurdish leaders have rejected a call for Prime Minister Ibrahim al-Jafari to keep his position. On Wednesday, Mr. al-Jafari said he would not resign. In other news, a judge has ruled that the handwriting of former Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein appears on documents linked to an Iraqi government campaign against Shiite Muslims. 148 people were killed in the campaign 24 years ago. An American diplomat says most countries now believe that Iran should receive some kind of punishment because of its nuclear program. Under-Secretary of State Nicholas Burns said he discussed possible actions against Iran during meetings in Moscow this week. Mr. Burns met with officials of the world's leading industrial countries and permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. Also Wednesday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the world wants to see urgent and clear steps from Iran. A top Russian general said Russia's military would not get involved if there is an armed conflict with Iran. A powerful rocket exploded Wednesday in the Afghan capital, Kabul. One person was injured. The explosion happened in an area near the United States Embassy and NATO peacekeeping headquarters. Soldiers have closed off the area. A spokesman for the embassy told the Associated Press that he could not say if the embassy was the target of the explosion. Venezuelan officials say 10 prisoners were killed during a riot in the western part of the country. Officials say the rioting took place Wednesday at the Santa Ana prison in the state of Táchira. The trouble follows the recent escape of 24 prisoners from another prison in eastern Venezuela. Officials say the prisoners escaped by digging an underground passageway. Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez says he is withdrawing from the Andean Community Trade Group. Mr. Chavez criticized member nations Colombia and Peru for signing free trade agreements with the United States. He announced that he was leaving the group Wednesday during a visit to Paraguay. Officials in Mexico say President Vicente Fox wants to turn the National Palace into a museum before he leaves office. A presidential spokesman told reporters Wednesday that the palace may be turned into a museum before Mr. Fox leaves office later this year. Rubén Aguilar said international groups asked the president 4 years ago to protect the 16th century palace. Mr. Aguilar said that Mr. Fox approved the request. But presidential candidate Andrés Manuel López Obrador has said that if he wins the presidency, he would live in the National Palace. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. Opposition parties in Nepal are planning a large demonstration in the Nepalese capital, Kathmandu. However, the government has ordered a curfew. The curfew will be in effect until 8 p.m. local time. Security officials have been ordered to shoot anyone found on the streets while the curfew is in effect. In other news, at least 4 people were killed when police fired on demonstrators in the eastern town of Chandragadi. Also, a woman was shot and killed in southwestern Nepal. In Somalia, people in the capital, Mogadishu, are reportedly leaving the area in fear of violent battles between 2 opposing groups. Reports in the area say a coalition of armed groups is preparing for new fighting against a group of gunmen linked to the Islamic courts. The coalition of armed groups is attempting to gain control of the capital. Currently, the Islamic courts control some parts of Mogadishu. Many Somalis suspect that the opposing coalition is supported by the United States government as part of its war on terrorism. Somalia has been without a central government since 1991. The United Nations is urging Lebanon to strengthen its borders. The move is designed to stop the flow of weapons from Syria to Hezbollah rebels in southern Lebanon. UN diplomat Terje Larsen released a report to UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan Wednesday. In the report, Mr. Larsen said that talks on a border agreement are urgently needed. He also repeated calls for the rebel group Hezbollah to disarm and join the Lebanese army. Oil prices in the United States have reached record highs for a second straight day. During Wednesday's trading, prices for a barrel of crude oil went up to $72.40 before coming down at the close of business. In London, prices reached an all-time high of $74 a barrel. Experts say the price increases are the result of concern over Iran's nuclear weapons program and supply problems in Nigeria. Chinese President Hu Jintao has visited a Boeing airplane production center as part of his 4-day visit to the United States. His visit comes after the Chinese government announced plans to buy 80 Boeing airplanes. The Chinese leader arrived in the northwestern part of the country in Washington State on Tuesday. He visited the headquarters of the American computer software company, Microsoft, with its chairman, Bill Gates. On Thursday, Mr. Hu will meet with President Bush in Washington, D.C. They are expected to discuss trade and the nuclear programs of North Korea and Iran. And now, briefly, here again is the major news of the hour. Officials in Venezuela say 10 prisoners were killed during a riot in the western part of the country. In Afghanistan, a powerful rocket exploded Wednesday in the capital, Kabul, injuring 1 person. And an American official says most countries believe that Iran should receive some kind of punishment because of its nuclear program. And that's the news in VOA Special English. From Washington, Jim Tedder reporting.